How to start a clothing line. Regardless of your drive, knowing how to start a clothing line is very different from just wanting to start a clothing line. Luckily, many scrappy clothing entrepreneurs before you have launched their lines to great success, and they're willing to share their tips with you. How to start a clothing line. With the competition, complexities and even intimidation associated with the fashion industry, you may be concerned that as an entrepreneur with no experience, you won't be able to start our own clothing line. When it comes down to it, however, unlike, say, becoming a doctor, starting a clothing line doesn't necessarily require special training or a degree. That said, you do need to completely dedicate your time and energy into launching your clothing brand. Write a business plan. It's always useful to write and implement a business plan at the start of your venture. This plan will act as a roadmap outlining how you'll reach your goals over the next couple of years. But also know that your business plan isn't necessarily set in stone. Find your niche. After you've created your business plan, the next step to learning how to start a clothing line will be to find your niche in the market and in the industry. Generally, the most successful businesses identify a problem within the market and then design a product expressly to fix that problem. This being said, you don't necessarily need to dive too deeply into researching the market at this stage. It's likely that an idea for a unique clothing item will reveal itself as you're living your everyday life. Understand your market. Once you've hit upon your business idea, now you need to truly understand the consumer you're designing for. Your designs, fabric choices, sourcing and production budget and retail outlets all have to cater to your target demographic spending behaviors, lifestyle and aesthetic preferences, so don't get started on any of the above before diving deep into understanding your base. Register your clothing business. Now that you've done the necessary background research about your product, target demographic and even startup costs, you'll want to take care of the appropriate paperwork before diving into the actual production of your clothing line. To this end, there are a handful of tasks you'll want to accomplish. Choose a business entity type. First, you'll want to select your business entity type: sole proprietorship, LLC, S Corp, etc. There are pros and cons to every type, so you'll want to think about which best suits your plans and goals. Register your business. Depending on the entity type you choose, you may have to officially register your business with the state where you'll be operating. Get business licenses and permits. At the very least, you'll likely need a general business operating license to officially start your clothing line business. If you're going to be operating from your home and starting your clothing line online, you may need specific permits, like a sales tax license and home occupation permit, as well. Get an employer identification number. Part of starting a clothing line, or any business for that matter, is registering for and paying business taxes. Therefore, you'll want to apply for an IN with the IRS. Design and source the clothes for your line. After you've gone through all of the steps necessary to make your business official, it's time to get into the meat of learning how to start a clothing line, designing your clothing and sourcing your material. This can be the most challenging part of the process for many entrepreneurs starting a clothing line, especially those who haven't worked in the fashion industry before. Partner with a manufacturer. Finding the right manufacturer to produce your clothing is crucial to bringing your vision and goal for your brand to life. When seeking a manufacturer, consider factors like your manufacturer's minimum order quantity, cost, quality and trustworthiness. You might also want to find a manufacturer with in-house pattern makers to streamline your processes. Price your products. To this end, before you can actually launch your clothing line, you'll need to price your products. Once you've found your materials and manufacturer, you'll have a better sense of how much it costs to start your clothing line, and therefore, you can price your items accordingly. With your pricing, you'll want to strike a balance between making a profit and setting a price that customers are willing to pay. Decide where to sell your clothing line. After you've created your clothing line and decided on a pricing strategy, you're ready to actually start selling. As we mentioned above, this is something you should have thought about as part of your business plan and research, and now it's time to execute. Therefore, if you think that starting your clothing online is the best avenue, you'll want to set up the platform to launch your product and your brand. You'll likely want to start by creating your own e-commerce website, as well as social media accounts. Market your clothing line. After you've set up where you're going to sell your clothing line, whether your own online store, a marketplace or somewhere else, you'll need to actually get eyes on your products. You don't need a huge marketing budget or even previous business marketing experience to effectively spotlight your brand. In fact, many entrepreneurs simply use their free social media accounts as their main marketing channels. Figure out how to manage your finances. You took the first step to managing your finances when you registered your business for a 9. However, as you have launched your clothing line and started actually getting into the day-to-day of running a business, there are a few other steps that are essential to properly managing your finances and setting up your business for success. Open a business bank account. Even if you started your clothing line as a sole proprietor, having a dedicated business bank account is important. Get a business credit card. With all of the startup costs associated with starting a clothing line, a business credit card can be particularly useful, not only as a way to finance your operations, but also to help you start building credit, as well as benefiting from any rewards the card offers. Set up your accounting. In order to manage your suppliers, manufacturers, sales and any costs associated with starting your clothing line, you'll want to set up an accounting system to manage everything in one place. Get funding for your clothing line. Getting your finances situated will help you with the final step in this how to start a clothing line guide, finding financing. Like most entrepreneurs in any industry, the clothing designers we interviewed mostly bootstrapped or self-financed their ventures, using a combination of their own savings and contributions from friends and family. Crowdfunding can be a surprisingly lucrative way to raise funds at the very start of your venture. Plus, crowdfunding can double as a method of vetting your market and gauging customer interest in your product. Whether you have experience starting your own small business or not, expect to overcome serious learning curves. But if you're unrelenting in your dedication, you'll find no better satisfaction than seeing your customers live their lives in your creations, and doing it on your own terms.